So I, like many of you, watched the Long Gone Summer ESPN documentary on Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, which detailed their home run race in the '98 season of the MLB, where they were both on the verge of and eventually did break Roger Maris's 61 home run in a season record. And it really brought up the steroid era again. And it brings me to this question. Who do we blame for the steroid era? Do we blame the players who are taking the steroids? Or do we blame Bud Selig, the commissioner of baseball at that time? So how it worked was they really weren't testing for steroids. Guys weren't really hiding it. You saw in the documentary how Mark McGwire had a bottle of PEDs just sitting there, and the MLB turned a blind eye because it was good for business. You would turn on SportsCenter and you would get an update that Mark McGwire was taking batting practice. I saw somewhere that it said around 50% of the league was believed to be on some sort of PED at the time, but at the same time, there were also guys that were doing it clean. Like, I can think of some Hall of Famers right now who did it clean. You have Frank Thomas, who was a clean hitter. You have Ken Griffey Jr. You have Jim Thome. Those guys all hit over 500 home runs each, and they all did it clean, that we know of. But that's the other thing. Like, we have these guys that are clean, and because of the dirty guys, they're now tainted. I had to say that we know of, because we really don't know everyone who was on steroids back in that time. So, do we blame the players, or do we blame the MLB? The MLB only did something because Congress told them that we need to crack down on this, and you guys are going to have to start doing something. So, eventually the MLB enforced testing, and it was a joke to start out because it was negotiated through the Players Union, which I don't fault the Players Union, because it was kind of like being sprung on them. But to appease Congress, the MLB did require testing, and now, as we all know, testing is a lot more stringent than it was even when I started watching baseball. When I first started watching baseball, you would get, I believe it was maybe a 25-game suspension or something like that for a PED. Maybe, I think it might have been 50. Now it's 80 games and can't go to the playoffs. And the reason why that is because Johnny Peralta was with the Tigers at the time, I believe, and he ended up getting suspended during the season for PEDs, came back, and just absolutely raked in the playoffs and got a big-time contract with the Cardinals. So the MLB stepped in and said, all right, it's time to change this policy because guys are just going to take the 50-game suspension and end up making more money because they were on the PEDs than they would have if they were clean. So we're a lot farther today than we are then, but at the same time, the MLB did look the other way. They weren't going to question these guys whose heads were growing, 2 times the size. You look at Barry Bonds, a picture of him in Pittsburgh versus a picture of him at the end of his career, and you know something's up, especially when guys are playing, into their mid-40s. You know something's going on. But I'll be interested to see what you guys have to say. Do you guys blame the players who were taking the steroids, or do you blame the executives at the MLB for turning a blind eye and really letting the steroids become a part of the game at that time? Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.